I'm absolutely delighted to welcome my guest here, Niall Harrington. Thank you, Niall, for coming in. Niall is the president of Waterford Chamber this year and also managing director of Whitebox Developments. Is that the correct title?
That's what, yeah, Whitebox will do. We're very informal in our business, so.
Very good. Well, Niall, you're Waterford out and out, and you're a fantastic success story of business in Waterford. Tell me, what's it like being a developer right now? Is it stressful?
Look, it's in equal amounts of stress and reward, I suppose. It's always great to get to the end result, and you kind of forget about the past once you get to the end result. So I think from a Whitebox perspective, and people can see it now because the Lighthouse Road is open and the first phase of houses is handed over to in Elder Walk and Brindle Close is coming together. So as you know, in Summerfields, of course. So yeah. You're starting to see that come together, and that's really our trademark. That's what we do. That's what it's all about, and that's the product we look to produce when we're finished our projects. And it's great that it's there now and people can see it, and it's a good testimony for what we do. So that takes the stress out of it. But is it stressful being a developer? Yes, it is, but the rewards are better than the stress, I think.
So what's planning like in Ireland for a developer? Like, what are the roadblocks that you come across?
Look, there's planning, I suppose. I've been in the industry for the last 40 years, so planning has significantly changed. When I started out, I mean, you could put your planning application on the back of a sheet of wallpaper and bring it into the planning office and get a planning permission. Now it's actually gone very scientific, and probably too scientific, that there's so much involved in that. The whole purpose of making the planning more transparent was that the third parties, or the people affected by the developments, the neighbours or whatever, that they could understand the planning application. But now it's got so technical that you've got, with every application now, if it's over a hectare of land, you have to do an archaeological assessment, you've got to do environmental assessments, you've got roads and road safety audits. All of this is good information, and it's good to have, and it reinforces the development. But I think it's having all of that at the planning stage is too much information. It's too costly to put it all together. Planning is, in this country, is too much of a risk. I think when you look at it, and if you look at it, our planning system, very simplistic, the first thing it goes through is a zoning process. So the development plan is prepared, the local planners decide what's being zoned, if the land is suitable for housing. And when they're zoning that, they go through an environmental assessment themselves. They look at it from can the land be serviced with traffic? Are the right roads in place? And are the services in place? So those assessments they've already done by zoning it. The fact that now when it's zoned and you come back to do the planning application, you're doing all those assessments again. It's all doubling up on time, money. It's overkill. Like, for example, it could be conditional on the planning permission that you have all of these pieces of information to support it, so that from a developer's perspective, that you're ensuring that your application is robust enough to get your decision, but robust enough that when you have to provide all this information post-planning, that it's robust enough that it will achieve your road safety audits or whatever that needs to happen. But again, so it's a bit like we're trying to put too much in at the start, and it's very specialist. And I would say to people before, like when we started, when the whole new planning system came into place, maybe about 10 years ago, that really you need a degree in planning to get planning permission. And that's not really what it should be about. It should be very accessible, very understandable to people, and a very simple process that, look, at the end of the day, if you're putting a development into a location, either that development is suitable for that location, it's going to improve that location, it's going to be community gain associated with it, and it's within the scale and character of the area. They're the simple planning guidelines that we should look at. And then once you assess that, that's then the detail should come after it, but the assessment should be based on that initially, and then we drive on. They have a very simple planning system in Poland, and I think that's something that the model we should follow.
What's the difference? Less red tape?
Less red tape, but it's a bit like what happens is the zoning plan is a 3D plan. So, for example, when they're zoning the land, they'll say to you, you can put in 100 houses onto that land. So there's no guessing involved in it. So when you come in then with your application, once you have 100 houses in there, no more, you're granted permission. So it's very simple, straightforward. From a developer's perspective, there's I won't say there's no risk in it, but you can value your risk, and the money that you're putting into the planning application, you can be sure that you'll have some sort of outcome. And this is what puts a lot of people off the planning process in Ireland, is there's no guaranteed outcome. You can spend a lot of money, you can go, anybody in the world can take you to An Bord Pleanála, then you don't know. There's no guaranteed timelines with them both and the decisions they'll make. You could spin off into judicial review, or you can go into the European Court. So like it can become a never-ending story. So sometimes a lot of people, and in particular the larger companies that are either coming to Ireland, they don't understand the process, and not understanding it, then they kind of think, well, my shareholders are investing, should I look somewhere else to invest because the Irish planning system. So it is a challenge. But again, you have to be up for the challenge to kick on with it. So
it's not ideal, and I've no doubt that it contributes to the housing crisis. Niall, if you were Minister for Housing, what would you do to help? I mean, we spoke about the numbers, and the government's always talking about, we're building 30,000 houses a year. The developers like you are building 30,000 houses, and there's an enormous deficit, isn't there? But what would you do if you're Minister for Housing to help the situation?
Look, I'm a big fan of this government, and the reason for it is because they started out at a very low base. You got to remember, you got to put everything into context. We came out of the back of the Celtic Tiger crash, and I mean, even down to machinery to build houses. Everything was sold off. Receivers came in and decimated, sold off everything they could, and went international. Our educational system, people didn't want to get involved in the construction industry and third level education. You got huge issues around training. The guys weren't going in to do plastering or whatever because they said, look, there's no work in construction, and everybody's focus was turned somewhere else. The government, I don't think, realised the extent of the challenge as our economy got back on track, but as our numbers grew, as we had immigration and things like that. There are huge challenges, and our industry just wasn't ready for that challenge. We had to start from a very low base. I think, in fairness to the likes of Senator John Cummins and the Minister for Housing, John Bin, the Senator for Housing, the spokesperson for housing for Fine Gael, I mean, been the architect for a lot of the housing policies that have come through from Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. You've got to admire some of the stuff they've done. The social housing strategy that they've come up with, that is working. It's working very well, and they've got that sorted. Now what they're coming at is the affordable housing product, and they have the right policies in place, and your rent, your repair and lease, and so they've got all of they started at the bottom and worked from social housing, affordable housing, repair and lease. Now what they need to do is sort out and create the market for private homeowners and look after those, and the rental sector, the private rental sector as well. I think they're the next big challenges for the government. But I think, look, they keep setting targets of building 30,000 houses a year. I think what we need to do is, okay, we need housing and we need it quickly, but look, what's the point in trying to race? Because we'll build 50,000 houses a year, and in 10 years' time, then we won't be building any houses because we'll have too many houses. It'll be a bit like the same, it'll be up and down. But they should set themselves a target and say, look, what we need to do is build 25,000 houses a year, and over the next 25 years deliver that. There'll be pain there, but you'll have the trades will be all consistent, pricing will be consistent, the market will be consistent. Let's keep it that, let's not always try to hit double top with the first dart we throw. Let's be consistent about how we go at it, and let's not panic. We will get there. There will be pain in it, but we'll come out the other side of it. And like other things, it's not just housing is a problem, student accommodation is a problem. But if we pick at all of those little pieces, get the students into proper student accommodation, purpose built, that'll free up some of the houses in the housing estates, which they shouldn't be for students anyway. And so that'll help the market come back. So I think doing a good job, a bit more to do, but it's stable, and keep it consistent and steady rather than trying to panic. We did that before, and look how that worked out.
Yeah, I suppose, look, because I've been in the rental market for so many years, and I've so many people ringing and calling me to help them with rental, it is dire, it really is. And I think we've often discussed it, that the government isn't really doing anything to keep small property owners in the market. I think they need to bring back in bedsits for one thing, and they need to look at it, as you rightly said, we do have an influx of refugees and people coming in because of war situations, and we've got to be able to accommodate them. So it's adding pressure to an already pressurized situation. So what are the one or two things you might do, albeit that you've given the government great praise? What action, if they were going to take action, could they do?
Well, I can understand where the government are coming, trying to control the market, because they don't want the market to spiral out of control.
Yeah.
And look, I think the market will always look after the market. I think what they need to do is they definitely need to bring the private landlord back into the market, and they need to do something there. I mean, for every landlord that whatever income he gets, let's say it's a €1,500 per month of a 3-bedroom semi, whatever that number is, half of that going back to the government in taxes is ridiculous. Because by the time he then has, if he has the mortgage on it, has to pay back whatever, repair and whatever, there's nothing in it for him.
They'll have 400 out of 1,000.
They'll have 400 out of 1,000. So, that's not right. So what happens is we even see it in the chamber, and you would have seen it yourselves, where there's a lot of our larger industries, they're trying to attract talent to Waterford, and they have this difficulty that you can't get people to come to Waterford. They have no place to live. And what happens is they're not coming on a Monday and buying a house on a Tuesday. They have to come, start their job, and probably take rental accommodation for 6 months, 12 months, because it takes 6 months to buy a house, because you can't buy houses overnight. There's a process involved. So that type of accommodation is badly needed in our city. And growth in our economy and a growth in our city. I mean, we are the fastest growing city population of the 5 regional cities, but growth comes with 2 things: job creation, but job creation is on the back of housing. So we have to have houses for the job creation. So I think if one of those areas where I'd ask the government to look at specifically is look at the private rental market.
Absolutely.
Get product out there that we can introduce. And maybe, like we talked about the repair and lease scheme that was hugely successful in Waterford. The issue with that is, as far as I'm concerned, is that the repair and lease only is allowed lease back to a social tenant. If they allow that to be leased back to a private tenant, maybe.
Absolutely. It makes so much sense.
Small little adjustments could make a big difference.
Great, good. Well, hopefully somebody will be listening to this that might actually do something. You're president, in your role as president of the chamber, what do you think of the retail offering here in Waterford, and what could we do to improve things?
Well, as the father of 3 daughters, I can tell you what the retail offering is. I think we have to understand where we are as a city in terms of our retail offering. It is poor, there's no doubt about that. But we're coming off the back of COVID, which decimated the high street. We would have had lots of plans. The original application for the North Quays was a Man Point type shopping centre. There probably will never be a shopping centre built in this country again, because the whole traditional shopping centre is gone. It's all going to come back to
consumer
high street.
Habits have changed.
Yeah, consumer habits have changed. You're dealing with the challenges of online, but also people now it's a shopping experience they want. So they want a destination. So if yourself or my daughters or my wife were looking for a dress, they'll go somewhere where there's 5 or 6 boutiques and get some lunch or do something like that. So they want a bit of experience, and we in the chamber understand that, and we are looking and working at some options around how we can improve. And we have an attractive city, so the attractiveness is not the issue. It's to create that destination. And what does that destination look like? What are we trying to sell? What are we trying to sell Waterford as? For example, you look at the likes of Gorey. Gorey does very well for Mother of the Bride, boutiques and things like that. So that's the type of thing that we want to try, and how do we encompass that into brand Waterford, which is, think Waterford first. So get people to start thinking Waterford first. But how do we gather that offering together so we can put it out there under a single brand, or it's all marketed as the one location, one idea, one destination. And
they're important conversations to have. And Niall, you mentioned the North Quays there. I was going to ask you about that. Where there was so much talk about the North Quays for so long, and then there was so much negativity when it didn't materialize, and now everyone can see for themselves. The construction is happening. We've got a transition of the transport hub. What will the North Quays mean for Waterford, in your opinion?
Well, I've always been saying it. It'll be, and people have said it'll be transformational. It will be, because it's not just about what the North Quays will look like. It'll be what the North Quays will enable us as Waterford people present ourselves like. We're now going to have a city that's, the river will come back into the centre of the city. River hasn't changed, but we've been always turned our back on it. Now we're going to focus back onto the river because of the new sustainable bridge. You're going to have the transport hub. Is having a train and bus station in the same location is not unique to Everton and Galway, but having a train, a bus station, the Greenway, the river, all in the one location is probably unique in terms of the worldwide. And I think that's where the Waterford people need to start looking at the opportunity. What opportunities are going to come on the back of this that they can buy into or they can get themselves involved with? Because I think that's really the difference the North Quays is going to make. It's going to give us confidence in our own ability to deliver large-scale projects. It's going to bring a lot of new people to the 350 new residents onto the North Quays with the transport interchange, with the hotel, with the apart hotel, and with the office building. So it's bringing new energy into the city, because the southern part of the city, which is the old city, is very much a conservation area based on a Georgian grid pattern, whereas the North Quays is going to be very contemporary modern. So you'll have the new and the old looking at each other, and the attractiveness of both, I think, in terms of where we can drive that proposition to, and also how Ferrybank is going to play its part in it. I know Kilkenny County Council are looking at the Ferrybank local area plan at the moment, and to create this concentric city, because what you have is you take the clock tower as the city centre, and now with the sustainable bridge, Ferrybank and the Ferrybank area is going to be a 10-15 minute walk to the city centre via Greenway.
Yeah.
So I mean, now all of a sudden you've got a large swathe of land over there that can be developed that are going to reinforce the city centre back into what's going to happen in the North Quays. And remember, the application that's going in, that's currently in the conformity application by Harcourt, is only for phase 1, which I think is great, because now what it is, there's 2 additional phases. So it gives us all a chance to see what phase 1 is going to be like, and then see what direction that takes us to. So for example, if it is retail destination, tourism, or office, we still have that flexibility in the next 2 phases to modify and to really reinforce that offering.
So when can we expect to see life in the North Quays, do you think?
We had this, I remember with Damien Tiernan back and doing the radio, when are we going to have cranes, and where are they coming, and will they come? And now
I'm going to ask that question. It's exciting.
It is exciting. I mean, do you know what I love about the North Quays? And it's kind of like, I'm a firm believer in serendipity or timing. And I mean, and I was only talking to Mark Phelan. He's the contractor for BAM doing the works on the North Quays. And Mark was telling me, interesting enough, Darren Doyle, who's the captain for the port, and Pat Power and Harcourt, they actually were all in school together. So it's kind of, you kind of go, yeah, that's got to mean something. So when are we going to see? So I understand September time, I think the sustainable bridge is coming, and BAM will be finished their works April of next year. So I think what will happen then is BAM will then transition out of the site, and you'll see Harcourt coming in then, because it's not a site where you can have everybody working together on. It's you got to remember what's over there. The wharf that's over there has got to come out of it, because it's not capable of carrying the new building. So there's a whole new wharf got to be built. So you're going to see a whole level of construction again, and it's going to take time. I mean, the reality of it is this new development in North Quays is sitting over the river, so the whole wharf is going to have to be rebuilt. So there's going to be a lot of work in the river, coming out of the river, before you start seeing stuff coming up. So it's a bit like what you're looking at with BAM, and they're sitting there for the last 14, 16 months, and people say, what are they doing? And now all of a sudden it's coming together, the picture's emerging. It'll be the same.
5 years maybe?
I would have thought 4 to 5 years, yeah. I know their plan is ambitious, but these are ambitious guys, and Pat and his team are a very good team, doing a lot of great work around the world. So yeah, very capable people.
We're very lucky in Waterford. I mean, I'm originally from County Limerick, and I've been called a turncoat because I support Waterford when they play Limerick in the hurling. But my son was born and bred here, you know. But I love Waterford. It's been very good to me, and built a life here. But I think we are so lucky in terms of lifestyle. We've got all the beaches. It's an easy city to go around. I mean, people talk about traffic jams, 5 cars bumper to bumper at the roundabout. That's the extent of it in all reality. And I think, I firmly believe that Waterford has not met its potential yet, and that the time is coming. Would you agree?
I absolutely 100% agree, because it's a bit like, I'm again go back, a believer in timing, and you can see the way elements are aligning. I mean, in some respects, you asked the question earlier on about retail. The initial application for the North Quays was all retail based, and then when COVID hit, the world of retail has changed dramatically. Yes. But what it did, and what we're very fortunate in Waterford is, we can now flip into a focus of tourism attraction and tourism destination. Like, our current retail leakage in terms of value is about 600 million per annum to the city, down loss of revenue. But if we can improve our tourism offering, there's potential of 500 million offering there that can come back in to rebalance. But with additional tourism, in terms of bringing it into the city, that's going to bring additional retail revenues as well. So I mean, that's why I like the Harcourt guys as the when they came in, because they're very much, they have a history of tourism destination with what they did in Titanic Water.
Yes.
So I think that was a great fit for the direction of change that the world made us go in. I think that's been a great fit for the city. But you're 100% correct in terms of destination and lifestyle. I mean, well, lifestyle capital, Waterford, best city to live in. But you've got, like, we don't realise how fortunate we are having so many beaches and mountains. But then accessible city centre. The Waterford city centre activities, Summer in the City, for example. I mean, the catalogue of bands and acts they've had in there. Like, the city centre is coming to life. And I think what we need to do is just find that trigger point for the people of Waterford to fall in love with their city centre again. The fantastic work done by the council in terms of the environmental improvements of pulling people into the city centre, the quality of the streets and footpaths and roads. I think challenge a little bit about around car parking. People always say car parking is an issue. I think, we're looking at the Michael Street development and what that can bring forward into the city centre and things like that. So, but again, I think we need to get over ourselves a little bit
and be
proud of it. Yeah,
of Waterford, absolutely.
And I think the North Quays will give that a little bit to people as well. Look, with the North Quays, if it brings the early direct train service from Dublin into Waterford City Centre, which we've not had because of the constraints of the current railway station, get the airport moving again, so small little wins. And I keep saying this to the ministers when we met them in the Secretary Generals, and we met them in the Chamber of Commerce. We're not looking for big money, but we have big ambitions,
And I think it's not as everyone would like with the cardiac care, but the extension from 8 to 8, 7 days a week is progress, isn't it? It is progress. And like, being in real estate, at the end of the day, you can buy 2 houses in Waterford for the price of 1 in Dublin. It's easy to get around. And from my recent visits in Dublin, I can't get out fast enough, to be honest. Love it, great visit. But really, we have got so much on offer in Waterford.
I think people realise that from COVID as well. They've reevaluated the value they put on work and home. And I think the live-work balance, we've definitely got a better balance in Waterford. It's not just about house prices, but childcare, cost of childcare, and all of the other things as well. Is like you'd have, it's what you value and what you see as a lifestyle. I mean, you'll definitely I think you'll have a better quality of life, a better lifestyle. And it's what value you put on that.
And you forgot one thing, Niall. We get the best weather in the country. And on that note, I'd like to thank you very much.
No problem.
And you might like and share. Thank you very much.
Thank you.